Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
Welcome back to the Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show. It is Sunday, the 15th of January. It's good to be back on the air again. I apologize for last week. We had a late start. It was the first time in almost 15 years we're doing the show that happened, and we kind of rushed through it because I was very unprepared. Not that it's any different every week, but last week was especially different. But we got a great show for everybody tonight. Sasquatch, Denis, Barthe of Aggression is our guest. We'll be talking to Denis live in about 45 minutes or so. We're going to play as much music as we can tonight because we had a little abbreviated show last week. Right there, Merciful Fate with Nuns Have No Fun. I think Merciful Fate were probably the first real underground band that I got into. Being born in the 60s and, raised in the 70s, I was into a lot of the 70s rock that was coming out. Kiss was my first real, hard rock band around 76, 77. And that kind of led into Priest and Maiden and Sabbath and a lot of those other bands that were out already before I was into them. But that's what kind of happened. But I don't remember if I had gotten a demo tape from somebody or my friend Edmund, who was my partner in crime back then in the heavy metal world, there was a show by Gene Corey. I think he was in Montclair State University. It was one of those college radio stations back then. And I guess he played Merciful Fate in the show. My friend Edmund, we used to tape all those radio shows. I couldn't get that on my radio. I used to get WSOU, which came out a little later, but he taped it. He was like, you got to hear this band. The singer, his voice is so high-pitched, it's just unbelievable. And I heard that, and that just turned me into, the underground metalhead that I am today and still have been after almost 5 decades. So it was Merciful Fate for me, and I think that kind of got me into the underground scene, and from there, it just branched out and expanded. All right, we're going to keep the music flowing here tonight. We'll get to the news a little later on. We'll see if we can find something to complain about. I'm sure I will. It's not that difficult these days in the world of heavy metal. But how about a little Warfare? I would love to see those guys get back together. Evo has been on my show many times. I love talking to him. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, so I'm kind of blessed that he always calls on me when he has something to promote and wants to put out there. There is a book coming out, so I guess when the book is released, we'll get him on the show again. He is one hell of a character, I got to say that. But let the show go on.
Let's
All right, that was Samurai. I've spent a lot of time looking for some of the guys in that band. I just haven't had any luck finding them. I love that record. I mean, that comes off the band's debut record. They were a different, that was off a Sacred Blade from '84. By the time the second record came out, it was a different sounding band, in my opinion. The keyboards more prominent, a little bit more commercial sounding. That's just the way things were going back then with a lot of bands. But if anybody knows what any of the members of this group are, let me know. I mean, I was looking for Len Williams, a singer. I could not find them. I think I might have found Hugh Lewis, the guitar player. Some of these bands are very hard to reach out to. Like a lot of people from that generation just don't want to deal with social media or anything else. So it's very difficult. But you never know. They might just pop up. I just spent like the last month like trying to find as many underground bands as I can to have on the show in February. Like a lot of those bands had those one great classic records out and then they kind of disappeared. And I managed to get 2 out of the 5 that I've tried to reach out to come on next month. I'm working on the rest of them right now. So hopefully I get that all squared away before the end of January. And we'll announce the guest for February at that time. All right, let me see here. Usually I do 3 songs in a row. I only did 2 right there. I'm surprised. I guess I lost track of time. All right, how about we do some Anger, Strike Back.
Justice do it good. Hey, a little bit dangerous, doing like the best you could. Oh, you gotta roll again. You better see it's coming. Time is time, always out for running. Let's do it again. You're flying out in space, so you are the flash in the night away. I bet you got it. Turn the radio on. Oh, it's with disaster when it's turning all around. Hey, living at midnight, but you're doing good. Hey, a little bit dangerous, doing like the best you could. Oh, you gotta roll again. You better see it's coming. Time is time, always out for running. Do it again. You're flying out in space, so you are the flash in the night away. I bet you got it. See it's coming. See it coming. It's coming. Oh yeah. You see it's coming. Get on. Feel it hot. Ooh, that's something good. Let's it for the metal rock, alright. Living at midnight, but you do it good. Hey, a little bit dangerous, doing like the best you could. Oh, you better roll again. You better see it's coming. Time is time, always out for running. Ooh, do it again. You're flying out in space, but you are the flash in the night away. You gotta rock it.
Action, Fury of the Tempest, and right before that, Mad Butcher with Flesh in the Night, and Anger, Strike Back. You want to talk about bands that sounded completely different from one record to the next? Anger. I mean, I shouldn't say record, because Reach for the Sky, I think, was the only record that they put out, if I remember. It was completely different sound than the demos. A lot of keyboards, very AOR sounding, where those first two demo tapes was some real great heavy metal. But the demo tapes I have are like, almost 40 years old now. The quality's not that great, so I figured I'd go with a song off the record. And Action, man. I want to thank Darren for sending me out the Action T-shirt. I got it the other day. Thank you very much, Darren. I'm working on getting him on the show. His father just passed away when I had asked. He really wasn't up to it. I understand that. But he has a brand new solo record out right now. Half the songs on there, I believe, are Action songs that were never released, and they're kind of reworked, and the rest of them are solo songs. So I am definitely looking forward to talking to him one day. Hopefully we can make it happen. All right, we're going to give Dennis a call in about 15 minutes or so. He's the only guest we have on tonight, so, we figure we'd do it a little later than normal. And I saw that Tony Harnell says, he has to get new TNT music out this year. That's probably because he wants to quit the band already. And if he let's get the album out before he quits this band. I don't think Tony's been in any band longer than 10 or 11 months in the last 10 years or so. But that's just the way he is. And I was looking to check out that new video, a new song by Dave Lombardo. I forgot the name of it, Venomum Morris or something. It's something that he does with his wife. I was just curious. I mean, you think these guys would have learned from John Lennon and Yoko Ono not to get your wives involved in your business or, in your music, but they seem to never learn. And I can imagine what this sounds like, but I didn't get a chance to check it out, so I will. But I noticed like this whole week, it's been like one band after the other whose wives are talking for them. Neil Sean's wife is talking about Greg Rowley coming back into, Journey. You talk about, the Pantera guys' ex-girlfriends, getting involved in their business. And women should just mind their business when it comes to the husband's bands, because guys don't want to hear that. I got to be honest with you. I mean, my wife handles all the business in my house, and that's fine by me because it's not what I do. It's our personal business. But when it comes to the actual business, the business of music, keep your wives out of it. Yoko Ono is the perfect example why she broke up the Beatles, for Christ's sake. All right, let's play some Thor. Last week I was watching the Thor documentary, I Am Thor. It was sent to me by his manager, which I think is actually him. I think it's his own manager, and he uses a different name. When I had him on the show, I think it was around the time the documentary came out, he sent me like a digital copy of it to review for the interview. But I just couldn't figure out back then how to download these things. I never really got to watch the whole thing, just bits and pieces of it. So I went through it the other day, and it's a pretty good documentary. I mean, he's an interesting character. I mean, like I said, he faked his own kidnapping around the time the first record came out. He said he was signed to the RCA Records. They put out, I think, the first record by Thor. And then, like he said, he got kidnapped. They had booked a stadium show for 5,000-seat arenas. It was his debut record. He had no hit songs off the record, yet he was booked by RCA to all these 5,000-seat arenas across the country. But all of a sudden, he was kidnapped by some shadowy figures, as he says, and held in the trunk of a car. I mean, the whole story is concocted, obviously, but he really sticks by it and believes in it and stands by it today. Just like when you call him up or you email him, you talk to him, you get a message back from his manager. I forgot the guy's name, but it's really him. And in the documentary, you see that, as it goes on, that he plays his own manager too. He's definitely an actor and a character. Not the greatest metal band in the world, but there were a couple of songs I liked off of some of those earlier records. So let's get on When Gods Collide.
march begins.
Let the blood run red. When gods collide, the seas will divide. The sky will explode. When gods collide. Cold, cold, vast wasteland, unknown to man. We travel for nights towards the northern lights. In search of the goddess, yeah, Odin is with us. We cross the line into Jotunheim.
And that record is 40 years old this year. My God, that really makes me feel old because I can still picture myself in my head walking into Zigzag Records in Brooklyn and grabbing that off the shelf. Oh my God. All right, you know what? I got to get Dennis on the line. Let's play a quick aggression song. While it's on, I'll dial him up. We'll get this interview going. Here's Green Goblin. All right, let's get Dennis on the phone. Everything's moving so slow here tonight. There we go.
Hello?
Dennis, it's Mike. You're on the
Hello?
air live. How are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Well, it's good to have you back on here, my friend. And I have to tell you this, it's always a good reason when a great record comes out. And from Hell with Hate last year was one of my top records and just a brutal piece of slab.
Well, I aim to please, my friend. We aim to please, so I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it came out great. It really did. And for people that didn't get the EP, this will probably be the first time they get to hear you actually singing with the band. You're not a vocalist, too.
No, I'm not.
No?
So I used the pandemic to really try to master the craft of being able to play guitar and sing properly. But funny enough, I'm actually the original singer for Aggression. When we started in 1984, myself and Doug, the bass player, we used to share lead vocal duties. So, but it was not done properly. Let me tell you.
I can imagine. Because on the first demo that I have, I know there was somebody else singing on that. I think it was Eric was on the first demo that I got back from, I think, 84, 85.
Yeah, so Butcher was the singer at the time of the demo, but before that, we did some concert actually with Anvil in front of 3,000 to 4,000 people, and myself and Doug were lead singers. And we used to do like a few covers. At the time, we used to play like Metal Slaughter already, and like Evil Pox and all those songs. And we used to play like Kill 'Em All from front to back. So I used to like be like the James Hetfield like vocalist, and Doug would sing the Slayer ones because he could do the Ice Cream like for Evil Has No Boundaries or that stuff.
Do you have any tapes of that? I would love to hear that, especially you singing back then, that far back.
I don't know. I saw like the first pictures of that era like a long time ago, but I think there was a tape that used to exist of us singing when we were like 15, 16, 17 years old. But I haven't heard it in like at least 35 years.
Wow. I'm more amazed that you guys opened for Anvil at that. I mean, Anvil were at their peak at that time, playing in front of that many people for a young band just starting out.
Yeah, and at the time we were called like Asylum. We were not even Aggression yet. We changed the name like shortly after that concert. But yeah, we did actually open for Anvil in front of like, it was at least 3,000 people there. It was a huge festival. And they were touring, I think it was Forge and Fire tour. And we opened for them in Montreal.
That's amazing. And, when you think about it, the band had such a short run the first time around, maybe 5 years, 6 years at the most. We got the full treatment towards the very end, like in 87, right before things fell apart. But the legacy of the band lived on and grew over the next 2 or 3 decades. Did it surprise you? Because there were reunions on and off, throughout the last couple of decades. But did you realize how important the band was just from that little bit of time you put together back then?
Yeah, in hindsight, looking back, I wish I would have never stopped, but too many things happened. We were, I don't know, Keith Richards and Ace Frehley can get their band going with everything they did, but for us, we couldn't. We needed to pound pawn shop instruments and jail, prison, and you name it. And then I started a family, so I thought I'd try to do the right thing and stop playing metal. But I kind of always had that fire inside to make it happen, and it was just a progression. I did Cradle to Grave for almost 12 years, and then after that switched it back to Aggression. But it was a recipe of finding the right guys and just the timing of it all, and we're having so much fun doing it. So it's kind of I think the timing of it all kind of worked good in the end for Aggression. It's not the journey that we would have wished to take, but hey, man, I'm happy to be 56 years old and still, I can say when I said Trash Till Death when I was 15, 16, I meant it.
Absolutely. Well, when you think about it, when the band broke up, the whole music scene changed anyway. So who knows what would have happened over the 90s? I mean, some of the bigger bands fell by the wayside themselves. They just couldn't survive that decade, before they wound up coming back later on. So was it the Defenders of Old Festival that kind of got the band back together in 2014? Because I remember that's when we had John, and we would, the show was taking place right after that.
100%. It's I always gonna blame King Fowley from the seas to make me do what I do. But yeah, basically he just reached out and says, "Hey, there's Aggression wants to play this festival," and it kind of triggered everything from there. It did start to put pressure into finding local talent that could do that music. And then here we go, 7 years later, or no, more than that, 8, 9 years later, we keep producing album. And think about it, our From Hell with Hate came out in November, and we're already done tracking the drums for the next one.
Wow.
So that's how productive and in tune we are right now.
That's amazing. I mean, one thing I always said about Aggression is you guys took a little bit of what was going on in the hardcore world and the punk scene back then with the thrash and everything else, and you kind of combined it together. And I always thought that you guys were one of the first ones to do that. Anthrax gets credit for every genre of music because they dabbled in everything just to keep relevant. But you guys did it just think out of pure love for what was going on musically around you.
Well, and I said that before, but like I am just as much a fan of like the Ramones and GBH and Dead Kennedys and like and Crumb Suckers and like well even before that, but like I grew up on listening to like the Ramones and Sex Pistol and the Clash and all that, so I felt like I was always like similar to what Metallica or some of the other bands had. Like it was always part of our it was part of our life. Like we would listen to like Motorhead, Ace of Spades, and then the next song would be like CD Baby Attacked by Rats by GBH, and like to us like there was no difference. It was just one, right? So I think eventually it started leaking into our riff, and to this day, like I still listen. I listen to a lot of metal and of course a lot of classic rock, but like often I'll go back and listen to that like early like Cramps and Black Flag and Misfits, and it's just part of who we are. Where we grew up, there was no difference.
Absolutely. In the beginning of the show, I opened up with Merciful Fate, Nuns Having No Fun, and I was saying to me, I mean, we're the same age, so, we grew up listening to music in the 70s for the first time, and, I started with anything that was on the radio back then because that's all you could afford to do was play stuff on the radio, and then when you get your first record player, it was Kiss for me, and then it just kept getting heavy and heavy, I went to, like you said, some of the punk stuff, then Motorhead, then Judas Priest, and Black Sabbath, and Maiden, but to me, Merciful Fate in 81, when I first heard them, was the first, like, real underground type band where it was like doing something completely different and just like blew me away. And that got me into that scene back then, and I started looking and discovered all the other bands that were coming out at the time. Do you remember what band it was for you that kind of like brought you into that underground scene back then?
Well, and you know what, like Merciful is a great pick, just because like like at that point it was like record store trip every weekend, and then like we look at all these album covers and be like, I want this, and the First Maiden and even like Black Sabbath with Heaven and Hell, like with completely different sound, and like there was a movement going on, and it went from the new wave of British heavy metal into trash. But like for me, like the first time I truly realized that something was like going on is when I started to trade tapes with other musicians from like around the world. To like we would see like our addresses in the fanzines and magazines, and I used to trade tapes with like Caton from Hyrax or like Millie from Creator, and then I was hearing like super trash metal from like Germany and all these other countries. So I think it's not like one band, but it's like just like a bunch of things that happen all at the same time where like like I thought like in Quebec, like where I'm from, like Montreal, Quebec, like I thought I was the only one that like was into this. But like what's my surprise when one day I went to the record store and there was an album by a band called Voivod, War and Pain, and I was like, these guys are from here? Like I was just like, wow, they must be like like criminals, like torturing like animals in the woods, like they were coming from almost like 4 hours out of Montreal, even like in a more remote. Like how do these kids know about like? And like I call them kids, they're all older than me. But like, how do these guys know like about Motorhead? And like they're playing like Motorhead, and they're playing like Venom, and they're playing like so. They were really like, to me, probably if I have one band like that made me realize like something's going on is like when I got Voivod like War and Pain, and that it was like from my own area, and I had no idea who they were. Right.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, when you think about Canada, I mean, it's such a big place. Was everything kind of centered around Montreal back then? I mean, was that like the main hub for the metal scene? Because such a big place, and back then we had no internet, so you kind of had to get out there and play. You had to be in an area where there were enough clubs because you couldn't travel all over the country or anywhere else. So was that like enough of a scene over there at that time in the mid '80s to be vibrant enough to keep active?
I think Montreal has a reputation to not follow we're kind of like against the grain, maybe because we're I guess we're like French, so we have like a European like mentality when it comes to like music. Like we give breaks to bands like Styx and Supertramp, like nobody elsewhere used to listen, and then we kind of like grew their fan base which started out in Quebec, but the people around me, like my older cousin and things like that, like they're always searching for new music, right? So I think like Montreal like became like a hotbed for metal because like overnight I went from being alone at night school with like a Saxon patch to like now there was like 50 of us.
Yeah.
Like who the hell, where they're coming from, right? So, but I think like musically we're always like very open-minded because we were not listening only to like English radio, like we had French radio and all that, and a lot of stuff from Europe. So I think we're just open-minded. But don't forget that soon enough, Toronto was not too far behind, and like with bands like Sacrifice and Slaughter and Razor, and even like another band like Exciter and Anvil, like Exciter to me, I didn't even realize they were like from Ottawa, and like their first album is like Heavy Metal Maniac is so good. Like it's taking like Judas Priest, like and they just boost the entire concept. But like I think it was Montreal was definitely like where it grew like even more extreme because then we had the World War III festival that happened in Montreal, and then it was kind of like the stamp of approval internationally that we were like we were like kind of like the at the forefront of the scene from a taste and Voivod helping a lot, but Toronto wasn't far behind with like of course Slaughter and Sacrifice, both amazing bands that like not only we worship their music, but they're good friends of ours.
Yeah, they are great, and I would love to get something out of those guys again one day, but you never know. Thinking about Dennis, going back to like the 80s, the Full Treatment comes out in 87. I mean, it blew a lot of people away, like, they were hearing it for the first time. The band kind of ended like a year or two after that, but there was a record, Forgotten Skeleton, that was released almost 10 years ago now, but that was actually the original first recording of the band that never saw the light of day back then. What happened that record didn't come out? I mean, a lot of those songs were on the Full Treatment, but what, for that version of the record, how come it didn't happen?
Yeah, like it's just a timing thing. Our manager at the time, Johnny Hart, really wanted to release it according to his schedule and what he was envisioning for the band. And Scott Givens, who became like well known in the metal world afterwards, was trying to launch his label, Face Melt Records. So instead of going with like Metal Blade and Roadrunner and like all the like Combat at the time, like we wanted to like start on a new label and be like the main band instead of being like number 20 on another label. Let's just start Face Melt and be like the flagship band. And printing issues, the album was too long, they couldn't fit it on the vinyl, like you name it, like pressing plant issues, shutting down on the guy, and like 8-9 months later, like it was still not released, and we lost a lot of momentum because if it would have been released when it was supposed to, then we would have like kind of like bring the trash to even another more extreme level because there was like hints of like death metal and stuff on that album, but like the delay now, there was so many other bands coming out with other stuff that we just started to sound like it would have been like a copy of other things. So. And like we were young and immature. Like for us, like 8-9 months seems like 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So we decided to like cancel our agreement with the management company and just go with somebody else. Which now, if I would have to make the decision again, probably would not do that. But like the band kind of voted, and that's what we went with. But it's kind of, I was talking to Monty Connor from like Roadrunner record like afterwards, and he was saying like, you know, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks later, he got the job at Roadrunner, and his the first two band he wanted to sign was Annihilator and Aggression. So our future could have been a little bit slightly different if we would have been just a bit more patient. But hey, man, you know, it is what it is. We're just wild. And then eventually it came out, and I'm glad the product is there for people to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is what it is. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you know, people don't realize that the music business is a business. And when you're young kids and you're really just interested in getting out there on stage and playing and writing music and saying, hey, I got a record out, you don't really think about the business part of it and what kind of impact that could have on the band later on. I mean, so I'm sure that was the case with being young guys just wanting to play music. You weren't really thinking about the business end of it.
You cannot be more right. And even now, like in 2023, like writing the song, learning them, and recording them is like 10% of the job. Like you got to go on social media and promote it, and you got to find a label and try to get support. And then the touring is the same as touring. You drive. You're like 30 minutes on stage, then you wrap, you know, unpack, play, packed again, and then go and drive. Like, I mean, like, you got to really have passion for music to deal with all the bullshit that's around it, because there's so much crap, and all you want to do is just rock, right? But nobody tells you that when you're like 17, 18, 19, that, hey, not only like you have to learn to play your instrument and write songs, you should learn how to drive with a clutch, and you should learn to know how to budget and how to buy merch and how to make a video and post it on Instagram and shit like that. Like, that's not. I just want to rock. I don't care about any of this. But if you want to grow the brand and grow your band, you kind of have to learn, to do this. And fortunately for anyway, personally myself, there's younger guys in the band that are like talented and can do all that stuff in like 2 minutes while it takes me 2 hours, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we weren't brought up in the internet age, but that's what I think about it. I know you're like the main songwriter in the band. I mean, does songwriting come easy to you with something that you really had to work on, to become a masterful songwriter, musically and lyrically?
It's something that comes like stupidly easy for me. Like yesterday, I was practicing because I'm about to go and record rhythm guitars for the next record, and I was, while I was practicing that, I came up with 2 new songs for the next record in just one day, and I already have like the chorus, the pre-chorus, the main riff, and most of the lyrics. It just comes so naturally for me. I never had a problem writing songs. We actually have a bank, probably 80 songs that we have in a bank. In a database that I can pull from at any moment and be like, hey, here's a new song. So it's never, ever been a problem. Even though, I like to work as a team. So for me, it's not about what I want. I bring the riff to the band, and then I want everybody to have a thumbs up or a seal of approval so we can move forward with the part. There is a generation gap between myself and the other guy, so in my head, everything sounds like Love Gun and Stranglehold and Aerosmith Draw the Line. But these guys are able to separate the dad rock riffs and what should be sticking around and things like that. But it comes very naturally. But at the end, the end product is really a teamwork. We go through the parts, and Ryan, Dave, and Kyle, they tell me they explain to me time signatures and you shouldn't do that. That's not normal music. Your instrument is not tuned. They kind of guide me to what I'm trying to do. And as a team, it works really well, and we're producing extremely fast.
Yeah. Even though Forgotten Skeletons came out in 2004, 2005, the songs were almost 20 years old when that record came out. But the first time people got to hear what Aggression sounds like now was when Fragmented Spirit Devils came out in 2016. And that album blew me away. I mean, I was to me, I was like, this is, I think, what aggression would have sounded like if they were continually putting out records over the last 2 decades. It was a little bit of the old, but yet where you guys would have been at, I think, after playing music together for that many years. And Brian was singing for the band back then, who was also with you in Cradle to Grave, and the next two records kind of follow suit in that order. I mean, how did you feel about those records when they came out? Did you feel like they honored the old classic spirit of aggression, but yet they were new?
Yeah, like I think so. A lot of that was a combination of brand new riff and a combination of old riff that I had in the database or in the aggression vault. So it is what it is. I think vocally, like Brian Langley, who also sing for like Infernal Majesty, and he's in another band right now. I think I wanted it to sound death metal a little bit more than what aggression should be, but I think now with the way, I think with my vocal delivery, it sounds more like what aggression should be. Even though I thought there was nothing wrong with Brian's delivery, I just sonically it sounds different, and maybe it's a better match. But at the time, I was really happy with the job that Brian did, and still to this day, I think when I listen back to these albums, I think it's a progression that's getting the band back together, and then learning each other as musicians, and then continue to improve your craft from album to album. I just like to see a progression. I feel like our albums are getting better and better and better, but there's nothing wrong with anything that's been done since the band has been reformed.
I agree. When I heard that record was coming out, you guys were back together. I was like, I don't know, man. It's probably going to slay Cradle to Grave because you got some of the guys in there. But Cradle to Grave is completely different than Aggression. For people that haven't heard it yet, I mean, it's night and day musically, the two bands.
Yeah, it's almost like I always liked like Southern rock. I grew up on like Molly Hatchet and Blackfoot and all that stuff. So I always wanted to have that vibe in the music, and when Corrosion of Conformities went from hardcore punk to like that type of music, then I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one who would like to combine both. So that's what Cradle to Grave was a bit. But honestly, between you and I, it's so much easier for me to play aggression music than Cradle to Grave. It's just because that's where I come from. So. In my mind, everything sounds like Creator, Endless Pain. So, sonically, everything in my head sounds like that. So, Cradle to Grave so much slower that it was definitely an adjustment for me.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, how do you go back on the old songs now, stuff that was sang by different singers? I mean, do you have to make them your own now and change things around? Because you sound differently than they all sounded, and each one of them sounded different from each other. So how do you handle the vocals on songs that were sang by different singers over the course of the band?
Well, the new stuff is the easiest because it's me. But, I mean, it's a lot easier for me to sing Eric Botcher Langlois' style than say Cactus Pete on Full Treatment, which is almost impossible. It was so wild, it's almost impossible to do. His delivery is just it's completely crazy. There's no concept or pattern to it. He just went crazy. So I try to do as much as I can, but the Brian stuff is extremely different to sing because it was completely written as a 5-piece with the vocal independently not matching the riff. So I try to tackle some of those songs, but it sounds completely different than Brian's delivery. But yeah, Cactus Pete's impossible to reproduce, so we redid One for the Woods and Frozen Aggressor, what we call it, Return of the Frozen Aggressor from Hell with 8. And I needed Ryan, our drummer, and Kyle, our bass player's assistants, to be able to reproduce the craziness that we did on Full Treatment, because on that album, all 4 members, Gabe, myself, Doug, and Cactus Pete, we all sang on One for the Woods. Which Ryan was able to mimic all our rap voices, the rap part, all by himself, changing voice from one line to the other. So when I was telling you that the new guys are well accomplished musicians, I was not kidding. They were able to pull it off. So I'm getting some assistance by the young kids.
Yeah, when I heard Return of the Frozen Aggressor, I was like, oh man, they did like a sequel to that song. Oh wow, it's a new version of it. And because I'm familiar with the music, but yet it still sounds brand new, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like it's crazy that like over like 30 like 5 years later, it still sounds like fairly relevant. Of course, like technology make it sound better, and like I mean the delivery on Full Treatment, we were completely like out of control, like with like abusing stuff and things. So we were not in the best frame of mind to record an album at the time. But like uh, doing it with the new team, these guys are professional, and it's all click track, and it's very organic, but straight up solid. So it's nice to be able to play the old stuff and then have conversation with like Cactus Speed, Burn or Dog, and them saying like, wow, like you you guys are sounding how we should have sound 35 years ago.
Yeah. Most of the lineup here now has been with you since you reunited back in 2014, got back together. Was there an attempt at that time to try to get some of the original members back into the band, the ones that were still here?
Yeah, well, we tried in 2005, 2006. Like we tried to get everybody back. We were able to get everybody back except Gate. He was the drummer at the time. We had like had some health issues, but like we tried again with Doug. But the distance, me being in Vancouver, BC, it's like 4,500. I don't know, like 3,500 miles away from like Montreal.
Yeah.
So the distance made a difference. Plus, it's you gotta have like a certain like like an insanity level to be able to try to maintain your chops playing that music. Like it's not easy, and it's not like Burn and Doug would probably or Butcher or Cactus Speed could not do it. But it's just at some point, it matches like certain people, and some others want to do something else. But every time we play in Montreal, we always get those guys up on stage with us, and then it's just like old time. Like our forearm and hands hurt for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and then we go for some beers, and it's always talking about the good time. But I never like planned it for me to be the only like original member in the band. I always wanted to get the other guys involved, but it's just the distance made it like almost impossible to make it happen.
Yeah, you have bands today that have members literally all over the world. I mean, they never even see each other. They just send files back and forth. You're the kind of guy, I guess, that likes to be in the studio with the band, rehearsing and practicing together, writing songs together, being a unit like it used to be.
Well, that's it. Like I mean, I'd like to think that I'm like good enough with technology, but like I tried to do some of that even during the pandemic. Like the four guys here in Vancouver was kind of like split apart a bit, and we had some like Zoom jam and like tried to do it online and stuff. It's me, it misses the smell of the jam space, and like I need I need like a dirty jam space that smells like sweat and beer and alcohol to be able to deliver the goods, right? So I don't know, like we tried like remotely, like when Doug was in the band at the beginning, like we did some practice like long distance and everything like that, but we asked him like, hey, can you come and move to BC and stuff, and it's just hard to make it happen like that, especially at the age we are now, like in our like late 50s. It's just not easy to uproot your entire family and move to like 3,500 miles away to go play some thrash metal. So yeah, we tried, but we stay in contact, and you know what, like anything I can do to have them like participate and do things with the new band, like we're always talking and try to think of some ways where they could contribute.
Yeah, I know you just said you're in the studio, you're recording, the next record already. I mean, is it going to be in the same vein as from Hell with Hate, or are you, moving in a little different direction? And is it something that you're going to put out this year? You're going to hold on to it for a little while, let this album grow on people?
I think it's even going to be more focused, maybe, than From Hell with Eight. I think From Hell with Eight, it was the first album I was singing. I wanted to try different things. There's a lot of variety of music on that album. I think like on the next one, first of all, it's going to be on a bigger label. That news is coming up like end of the month. But I think it's going to be more like faster and more focused. It's definitely more trash with a hint of there's a bit more punk than From Hell with Eight. From Hell with Eight is very like metal. It's full on thrash metal with some like slower song. The next one is pretty much every song is super fast except the last one. So I think it's like the word I would use is more like focus, and I think it's more aggressive, if you can believe it or not.
I can't wait to hear that. A little bit in the Green Goblin vein, I guess. A little mixture of punk and speed and thrash together.
Dude, if we have to, right?
That's right. Hey, I'm going to let you go in a few minutes, Denis, because I want to play a couple of songs off the new record before we wrap up the show tonight. But what do you guys got cooking for this year? I mean, it's the beginning of 2023, brand new year. I know you're on a festival later on in the spring, but anything else happening this year that you could talk about?
Well, we're gonna finish this album. Everything's gonna be focused towards that. We already have some discussion about tours, with some bigger bands that want to bring us with them. So I think as soon as this album is done, it's all gonna be like tour. I think we have 2-3 times we're gonna go to the U.S. and then we're gonna go back to Europe. And there's been some discussion around South America, which we never been in. I think it's our biggest fan base is in Brazil. So we're really looking forward to play. So one more time, studio. This album's coming out, and then after that, it'll be like just shows, and we're gonna try to come and see as many people as we can and as often as we can.
That's going to be great. I hope you make your way over to the East Coast, to the New York area. I would love to see you again and catch you guys live. It'll be a thrill. So, Denis, the best of luck with the band. I can't wait for the next record to come out. When it is, you come back on here. We'll do this all over again.
Dude, Mike, I'm always here for you, my brother.
You got it, buddy. Thank you for all the great music over these years. I appreciate it.
All right, keep it metal.
You got it, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. All right, Denis, Sasquatch Barthe from Aggression. Let's get on the Night Stalk off the brand new record.
I am a big psychopath. You suffer and I don't care. Strike of a butcher knife all over California. You're all gonna die. to kill one mother. I want to kill one father. I want to kill one childhood. I want to kill one neighborhood. Of course I should. The blood of the innocents is flowing like a river. The tears of the mothers are dripping down the drain. Sentence glass. No remorse. Pleasure to kill. Oh, beware. Night Stalker. Night Stalker.
Boy, after Dennis mentioned Voivod, I had to get something on by them. That was Warriors of Ice, and before that, Brand New Aggression, Crow of Still Creek, and The Night Stalker. All right, we're going to wrap things up here in about 15 minutes or so. I want to thank Dennis for being on tonight's show. Let me see what we have on next week. Can we pull out my little pocket calendar over here, which is my cell phone, actually. Hey, Gary Schultz from Child Santa's on next week's show, as well as Drew, Charles, and Rich from Midnight Hillian. So don't forget to tune in next Sunday night. Wow, it's almost a year that we're back on the air. I think we did our first show the first Sunday of February of last year. So we're also in our 15th year of doing this. I can't believe it. This September will be 15 years that the Heavy Metal Mayhem radio show has been on the air. Incredible. All right, how about we do another set of music? Here's Slave Raider, Bigger, Badder, and Bolder.
I look for a challenge each and every day. I still remember what my daddy used to say. Son, as you're growing up, times they make it tough. Times when you do your best, but your best ain't good enough. You got to dig down deep inside. So this fucking world, you are alive. You gotta be bigger, you gotta be better, you gotta be bolder. You gotta be bigger, you gotta be better, you gotta be bolder. Yeah, don't drop your guard, don't turn your back.
fire trust. In jail, no, it's not the same. You pay the price to protect your name. It's too late to talk sense to you, 'cause you've run out of time. 'Cause you're street tough and wild, street tough. You act like a child, you know you're street tough and wild, street tough. Yeah, street tough and wild, street tough. You talk like a child, 'cause you're street tough and wild, street tough.
All right, that was some Mad Hatter with Street Tough. Carrie wanted to hear that, so there you go. Right before that, Oblivion Night with Clash with the Night. I love that band out of Texas. The singer was also in Militia and quite a few other bands from back in the day. I have to try to reach out to him and get him on the show. Before that, Traveler with Termination Shock. And we started things off with Slave Raider, Bigger, Badder, and Bolder. They had a lot of songs and movies in the late 80s and early 90s. Pretty good band. All right, I know we got a little poppy here tonight with some of those last few songs, so we're going to pick up the pace a little bit. Not with the next one, but we'll close it out with Battery tonight. So I want to thank Dennis for being on tonight's show. Don't forget to tune in next week. Charles St. Midnight Hillian are our guest. We're going to wrap it up here tonight with some Japanese metal. This is off of Fast Draw's first demo tape called Black Legacy. And then we're going to close it out with some Battery, Born for the Burning. So take care, everybody. Have a great week, and I will see you next Sunday night.